You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Meets Dannyphantom. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Cray22 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Day after team placements. Danny balanced one of his kunai knives on the end of one of his fingers at the moment while he and his two other team members waited for their sensei, Kakashi Hokage, to arrive. Glancing up a level he could see that Danny had placed another kunai knife on top of the first and was expertly balancing them both while his team members looked at him impressed. Naruto's mouth was wide open as he held his breath while watching the Halfa easily go about placing his third knife on top. As for Sasuke, he had a blank look on his face, but if one looked closer they could tell he was also shocked by such a feat. With ease the skunk-haired teen started to go for his throwing stars out of boredom before speaking and breaking everyone out of their shocked state. Does anyone know when our sensei is supposed to arrive? 'Cause if not, I have some information about him you both might be interested in. The blonde continued to hold his breath as if afraid he would accidentally knock the impossible tower over while the black-haired Uchiha spoke up. I'll admit your skills are impressive to say the least. What possible information could you have gathered about our sensei in just one night? Now adding his fifth ninja star onto the tower, Danny could tell he had only a few more moments until it fell over and spoke. Simple, I went to the library and did some research on Kakashi Hokage. Apparently every signal team assigned to him was sent back to the academy for some reason after his test. As for the test itself, I have no clue what it is and I wouldn't be surprised if he half expected me to do something like this in the end. If anything, we might have a better chance of passing whatever his test is by working together. Naruto can act as a distraction while you Sasuke can try and go in for whatever his test in. Even if that fails, the two of you working together can easily distract him long enough for me to do something, but he might not even use the same test. All I could get was that it was something to deal with teamwork and we shouldn't let anything go to our heads, another life lesson I learned before coming here I suppose. With ease the Halfa set his last ninja star on top of his tower, only to have it collapse a second later, ending his near impossible to duplicate stunt before speaking again. Anyways, he's here now. As if on cue, a man with silvery spiked hair and a scar going across one of his eyes appeared in front of them. The man wore a mask and part of his forehead protector went down over one of his eyes for some strange reason. They also wore a Konoha flak jacket, dark blue pants and a long-sleeve shirt with the addition of short, fingerless gloves with metal plates on the backhand. Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path and I had to backtrack. Instantly over his sudden awe, Naruto started to shout at their sensei for being late while Danny and Sasuke shook their heads before the skunk-haired teen spoke. Naruto, you should stop now before making an even bigger fool of yourself. He's late on purpose in hopes of getting one or more of us mad before he starts his test to see if we're good students or not. An exasperated look appeared on the Halfa's face at that moment as he looked at his blonde brother as it were, who stopped yelling to look at him in shock. As for Kakashi, his one visible eye widened in shock at this bit of information before finally breaking down laughing. Somehow, I just knew you would go and do some research on me, Danielle. I guess it's a good thing I took almost 95% of all the data on me from the library then. But enough about my attempts to keep any information out of your hands. Why don't we introduce ourselves one at a time? Kakashi spoke as he looked at his students, who only glanced at each other for a small moment before finally Naruto spoke. If so, then why don't you tell us about yourself first, that way we can see how it's supposed to go. The blonde spoke, and after a moment the silver-haired Jonin let out a sigh, at least somewhat glad that someone knew at least some of the art of negotiation. I see Danielle has taught you not to go about just going and telling people more about yourself. As for me, I'm Kakashi Hatake, things I like and things I hate. I don't feel like telling you that. As for my dreams of the future, I never thought of that before. My hobbies, well, I have lots of hobbies, but if I told you all of them we would be here till midday. Next up was Naruto, and his answers was something that Danny could have easily guessed himself if need be. Databeo. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes include instant ramen in a cup, and I really like the ramen Irika-sensei got me at the Ichiraka noodle shop. But I hate the 3 minutes you have to pour the water into the cup. My hobbies include eating different kinds of ramen and comparing them, and my future dream is to become Hokage. Almost unseen by all was the fact that the skunk-haired teen was shaking his head while muttering under his breath. I seriously need to find a way to get rid of this kid's ramen addiction. It's going to be the death of him one day. Everyone then turned their head towards Sasuke, who let out a soft sigh before finally speaking, as he knew he wouldn't be able to get out of this. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I hate a lot of things and I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I am going to restore my clan and destroy a certain someone responsible for its massacre. After that though, I haven't really thought about it that much. The only visible person to flinch at the black-haired boy's response was Naruto, as a heavy silence fell onto everyone that was broken only by Danny, who let out a small sigh before speaking. Guess it's my turn. My name is dannyphantom, and no, I won't explain the reason for having 2 last names. My hobbies include. I haven't actually thought of it that much in recent times, but I draw some pictures and like to make sure everyone around me is safe. Dislikes include people who go out for revenge, those that hurt the innocent, and possibly some of the rules that I have to follow. On such rule is that I cannot kill anything sentient beings. Hunting wild animals is fine, yes, but killing other human beings, no matter how cruel or twisted they are, is something I can't do no matter how much I want to. As for my dreams of the future, it would possibly be to find acceptance between my homeland and another country which has its own beliefs that my homeland should be eradicated just for the sole reason it exists. When Danny finished talking, his one blue eye was glowing slightly green with unbridled anger, which caused almost everyone to flinch slightly. Even Sasuke couldn't help but shiver as he felt a sliver of anger directed not at him, but his goal apparently. Naruto was left thinking about the one time that the Halfa had saved him with his strange killing intent, but could feel a hint of anger directed at his addiction to ramen for some reason. As for Kakashi, he only felt a strange sense of protection alongside curiosity towards why the skunk-haired boy thought there was a rule preventing him from killing people. Eventually though, the silence was lifted as everyone moved to a different location where there was more room. Everyone could also tell that the Jonin was smiling under his mask before he began to describe the conditions of the test. See these 2 bells, you have 2 hours to try and get them. Those that fail will be kicked off the team and sent back to the academy. Also they won't be able to eat lunch. Sasuke only glanced at the Halfa out of the corner of his eye for a moment, now impressed with the accuracy of his information about the test. Naruto though held an enraged face before taking a few calming breaths upon remembering what his brother had told him. Anger and negative emotions are something you want to avoid since you are a Jinchuriki, as Kyubi no Kitsune can use them as a means to weaken his seal and escape from you. With that thought repeating in his head, the blonde calmed down before all 3 of them split apart and were ready to begin their test. On the bright side though, Danny's plan was easy to follow, and with a big fox-like grin the Jinchuriki got ready to be a distraction by trying to attack their teacher. Danny decided to at least humiliate Kakashi a bit before he started the test in a serious manner. Smirking, he walked out near where his sensei was. "Hey Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi looked up from his book. "How would you be interested in a bet?" That got Kakashi's attention. "Oh, and what would you be playing?" "We are having the test after all. Before we begin the real portion of the test, how would you like to see if I can get the bells in under a minute?" Kakashi saw the look in his eyes and showed what he believed was overconfidence. "What will be the stakes then?" "I lose and I try to locate the author of that book of yours and have it autographed for you." Kakashi instantly agreed to that bet. And if you win? Kakashi asked his student in interest. Danny smiled. You treat the three of us to an all-you-can-eat buffet of our choice tonight. Naruto and Sasuke heard that but for different reasons. Naruto was drooling at the thought of excessive ramen. Sasuke was looking forward to an actual team dinner. Kakashi stood up and told Danny to give it what he had. Smirking, Danny made a clone of himself with Hokage. Thinking he was going for a combat stance when one of them grabbed the back of the other's shirt, confusing the jonin. Putting his hands into a familiar sign. Next thing he knew, the bells were in his student's hand and his clone was near the former location of his bells. Kakashi was lost for words. He just lost a bet. To a genin of all people, and it barely even lasted 15 seconds. He knew that he would probably have to pay up eventually. This though, he may not ever live this down. Danny tossed the bells back to his instructor. Now then, shall we begin the test, mocking his sensei. Soon as he dispelled the clone, Kakashi went on full alert so as to not have a repeat. Looking in one direction, he saw his blonde student running towards him. While of course he had his hand holding a book. Naruto ran towards his sensei in an attempt to engage him. However, Kakashi wasn't going to be that easy. Kakashi kept ducking or jumping over Naruto's attacks without even taking his eyes off the book. Naruto took another swing when he noticed Kakashi wasn't in front of him. Never take your eyes off your opponent and never let them get behind you. Kakashi held his fingers in a tiger-like sign. Danny and Sasuke widened their eyes at their teammate. Konoha's secret finger technique. Sennin Goroshi, 1,000 years of death, as he jabbed Naruto in the butt and watched with an eye smile as Naruto leaped off the ground in reflex as if someone just lit his butt on fire and landed in the lake to extinguish it. Off in the trees watching this happen were Danny and Sasuke, who both had a deadpan look upon seeing the blonde failed numerous times before the last member of the Uchiha clan spoke. Since Naruto was the class clown, you decided to have him be the distraction while we wait for the perfect opportunity to strike. Smart, Danielle, smart. The skunk-haired teen only gave his teammate a deadpan look upon hearing him use his full first name. Look, just call me Danny, alright, or as Naruto does, skunk hair, but don't call me by my first name, I never liked it. As for Naruto, I was hoping he would have used his stealth skills like the time he dragged me to prank Hokage Monument. It might not seem like it, but his jumpsuit is more along the lines of weight training, and if he can still sneak by an army of ANBU agents, then he is more than good enough for a sneak attack. But then again, no plan survives its first encounter with the enemy, so it's more of flying by the seat of your pants, something I'm more than good at. Though, his plan at this was rather funny, something to remember by. With a smile that would put the Cheshire Cat to shame, the Halfa easily slipped away from Sasuke, who turned his head to find an empty space next to him. That kid has got to be one of the best there is when it comes to stealth if he can slip away from me without being noticed. The black-haired boy turned his attention back to the battle and got ready for his chance to strike while clearing his mind of all thoughts on his teammates' stealth skills. At least that was what he hoped to do before suddenly seeing the Naruto that was fighting disappear into a cloud of smoke, shocking him into seeing that the blonde had managed to create a flesh and BLD shadow clone. In the back of his mind, Danny had to smile upon seeing that Naruto had created a shadow clone sometime during the fight. It was something that no one had seen coming, and Kakashi just barely had time to jump out of the way of a sneak attack from said blonde. It was this moment that Sasuke took to try and attack the Jonin, only to have him suddenly be replaced with a log in a cloud of smoke. A quick curse was all he got out before trying to quickly change his location, while the silver-haired ninja just watched with a slight smile on his face. Somewhere along the line of Naruto's distraction, though, he had pulled out an orange book of some sort that was unknowingly taken away from him by a certain skunk-haired preteen boy. Danny from his hiding place continued to watch as eventually Sasuke was drawn out of hiding and used his elemental jutsu to try and attack their sensei. Only a second later he suddenly popped up from the ground, creating a hole and potentially exposing his secret tunnel system his shadow clones had made, much to everyone's shock and tact. Kakashi, who was unprepared for said attack. The Alpha only smirked as he hooked his hand around one of the bells before suddenly being tossed aside like scrap paper. So Naruto was the first distraction while Sasuke waited for the right opportunity to strike. When that failed, you decided to wait for the right opening to strike as well. Very clever, Daniel, but it won't work on me again. Kakashi spoke as Danny started to stand up and the two other young members of Team 7 joined him until suddenly hearing a slight chuckle as the Alpha looked up. I might not have been able to obtain both of them this time, but my trick did manage to allow me to snag one of your bells, Kakashi-sensei. The silver-haired ninja looked down to see that indeed one of the bells was gone from his grip while the boys looked at the Alpha in shock, who spoke again. Also, who said that I was the original? After all, I have also been underground ever since this test began. With that, the skunk-haired teen disappeared in a pop of smoke, leaving a startled Naruto and Sasuke behind. Kakashi wearily looked at the ground for a moment as he realized the situation that was at hand, while the other two members of Team 7 quickly got back into a fighting stance as Sasuke spoke to him. You know, Danny has come up with an ingenious plan, one that I never even saw coming. Too bad we only have a certain amount of time left, else this would actually be more interesting. Naruto only glanced at his comrade and rival for a moment, slightly out of surprise upon hearing what the preteen had said today, before turning his attention back to their sensei with a big smirk on his face. Databayo. We won't stop until the finally bell is in our possession, Kakashi-sensei, so you better prepare yourself, because here we come. Now realizing he wasn't going to be able to read his book anymore and had to actually get serious, Kakashi got out two kunai knives before addressing the pair. All of you are actually working together. Now if only the other teams beforehand could have realized this is going to be interesting. At once Naruto and Sasuke began to attack like they had been trained their entire lives, even attempting to try and grab the last bell when they got a chance. While this was happening though, a certain skunk-haired teen was burrowing underground before suddenly shivering slightly as a blue wisp escaped his mouth. Shaking his head clear of the ghost in the area, the Alpha suddenly stopped and quickly shoved a hand right through the earth and grabbed the leg of a surprised Kakashi. Naruto and Sasuke though both quickly delivered a strong punch in his stomach and chest respectively, sending the jonin down to the ground as Danny pulled himself out of the ground fully. In his hand was two silver bells, while all three of them took some deep breaths before the skunk-haired teen smiled and spoke. And that was without me breaking level 1 of my chakra caps that I've set up, though I will say this, if I had to fight head-on Kakashi-sensei, I probably would have had to break the level 1 cap. Kakashi groaned as he stood up before suddenly doing a backflip as something came barreling right at them. He quickly grabbed the black-haired girl that was under him before holding a kunai knife to her neck, causing said girl to freeze before speaking. Well done, Danielle, you actually realized the purpose of the test. Now choose wisely on who gets to stay on the team. But know this, if you give the wrong answer I will cut your little sister's neck and pour her blood on the ground. At once everyone froze as Danny and Naruto recognized Danielle, who looked at them with wide eyes for a small moment before they filled with anger, and she spoke. Oh hell no. You did not just threaten my life. Acting quickly, and making the three preteens wince slightly, the young female quickly used her heel to kick the jonin where it hurt and then judo flipped him over her and onto the ground. Sasuke only glanced at the female for a moment before shaking his head upon remembering that Danny had told everyone he had a sister who liked to travel a lot and that she may appear to them at random. Hey Danny, nice to see you actually got my letters from Clockwork-san, and as for you Kakashi, A, never threaten anyone in front of me, B, you should really be careful around my sister since she can easily take me out, and C, I never go back on my friends, so if anything I'll give the bells to both of them and will not change my answer under any circumstances. All that everyone heard from the jonin was a small groan and they could see a slight nod from him before Naruto spoke up. Hey Danny, your brother has told me quite a bit about you and it's nice to actually see you in person for once. The female Alpha nodded in greeting before turning to face her brother with a small smile on her face. Yeah. I'm just passing through real quick, no way in hell I'm going to stay in Ninja Land for that long, but I thought I might as well stop by and say hi. I'm also here to easily tell you Danny that yes, I'm still alive and doing quite well if I say so, and now I'm off. A huge smile appeared on Danielle's face before she suddenly disappeared in a cloud of smoke and a soft pop. This made both the blonde and black-haired boy turn to their friend for a moment with raised eyebrows before he spoke. Danny is the last of my family and likes to travel, a lot, as I said before. She may drop in at random on us from time to time. Now since we're done here for the day, want to head back to our place Sasuke and play a card game from my homeland? Sasuke in turn only raised an eyebrow as he turned to look at their still on the ground teacher, before letting out a sigh, whatever. Danny looked towards the jonin on the floor. Oh, and Kakashi, just so as you know, all of the events from today's events were recorded on video by a spare clone I had made to record this for memoirs. Don't forget the agreement, alright? Danny asked, showing his Cheshire grin, scaring Kakashi, who knew his wallet might suffer a major blow to its health. Though he hoped that tape never saw the light of day. After Kakashi recovered from Danielle's surprising attack and passing his students, the jonin made his way to the Hokage's office. Hiruzen was busy filling out stacks of paperwork for the village. The aged Hokage glanced at the man who walked on in. I take it that you have come to a conclusion in your assessment of the team you've been assigned, Kakashi? The sensei of Team 7 nodded. While I am impressed, or rather surprised with the way that the team I have been assigned managed to pass my test, I am of course a little confused about the third member, Daniel. Hiruzen sighed at the jonin's statement. Your full assessment of Team 7, Kakashi, and more importantly what has got you so interested in Daniel-san in particular? Well, I'll admit the team is probably a bit overpowered, what with Naruto being the vessel of the Nine Tails, Sasuke and the amount of all his training he has done, and Daniel with the knowledge he has and how he uses it. If anything, I guess I just want to know why you assigned Daniel-san to my team when he could have been useful elsewhere. I do admit I am curious as to how he is able to achieve the actions in getting people to trust and go along with his plans. Kakashi spoke as if he knew how some of those things went down. The Hokage took a few whiffs from his tobacco pipe before speaking. You are indeed correct in one aspect, Kakashi. It does seem overpowered, whether by accident or not. Daniel-san alone could probably be a one-man team. He was a wandering shinobi that came from his village that was destroyed in some sort of cataclysm. I can't go into exact details, and there are some things that I would ask him first to talk about with others, but he witnessed his entire village killed in front of him. Kakashi's one visible eye opened in shock upon hearing this information before he filed it away for a later date as the Hokage continued to speak. I don't know the specifics myself except for what was explained in a letter sent from someone known as Clockwork, but Daniel was taught in a wide variety of things. It is true that Team 7 may be overpowered, of course. Part of the truth of the matter, Kakashi, was that there was no other place that he could be placed with all of his unique attributes. Kakashi nodded, finding it true that Danny was probably the most level-headed member on the team and was also quite good in any situation they might encounter. I think I get it, though now I must ask about what you know about Daniel, or Danny as he likes to be called, and do you also know what he meant by breaking level 1 of his chakra caps? The Hokage chuckled upon hearing this before the old man settled down and spoke. Daniel-san's past is largely unknown, the parts one do know myself anyway. If I were you, I would ask him first before disclosing, but all I can say is he is in a similar situation to Naruto, but no, he is not a Jinchuriki. As for the chakra caps, as much as I can gather, he has done his best to set up something similar to barriers to limit the amount of chakra flow within him. It is something similar to that of the 8 gates, and from what ANBU has managed to gather from him, he is afraid of using too much power at once. Kakashi was silent as he filled all of this useful information away for a later date. Hiruzen turned his head towards the window viewing the village. Daniel-san has a wide variety of abilities at his disposal, ranging from a sixth sense which is expelled from his mouth as a green wisp, all the way to using another energy source similar to chakra. From what ANBU forces have gathered, he calls it ectoplasm or ectoplasmic energy, and though it is similar to chakra by giving one unique abilities, it is a different thing entirely. This allows him access to a second form that I have yet to see, but, from what we gathered, the form doubles the strength of everything. Now the silver-haired Jonin was lost for words as the Hokage trailed off in thought of something else before Kakashi spoke up. "Sir, are the rumors true? Does Fenton have it in his head that he cannot be made to kill?" A moment of silence passed as the Hokage grew rigged. He was not exactly happy to speak of this topic before finally letting a sigh escape. "Yes. Danielle-san does have it in his head he can't kill, and there is a terrible reason behind this, Kakashi-san. Use your imagination, an SSS-rank ninja betraying their village and killing just for the pleasure of it, combined with Orochimaru's twisted mind." The world in that instant almost seemed to freeze in place as Kakashi felt his blood drain from his face in trying to picture that horror and what it would bring. From what I managed to gather from the letter and from the observations of the ANBU, Danielle-san's people made a rule about killing. They can horribly maim and drive people to the point of contemplating suicide, but to directly kill or make them commit it, can lead to something similar to a person's personality breaking. Those who break and keep killing are known as the broken, and those who don't become known as the lost and are just empty shells of themselves. If I'm correct, though, broken are the worst out of them. The Hokage frowned slightly as he looked down at the papers on his desk. Kakashi managed to calm himself down before speaking. "What's so bad about the broken, and can they seriously be considered an SSS rank with Orochimaru's mind thrown in?" "I'm afraid so. Danielle-san said that it was a member of his clan that was turned into a broken and that this one just killed for the pleasure of it. They killed everyone, friend and foe, family, loved ones, old men and women, young children, even newborns, just for the pleasure of it. In his own words, that monster thought it was funny to just sit around thinking of new ways he could slowly torture people to death. There is no insult strong enough to even begin to describe the atrocities he has committed for his amusement. Not to mention he wanted to turn me into something like him so we could both go and destroy the world together." A small shiver went down Kakashi's spine upon hearing this. The Jonin attempted to regain his wits as the Hokage spoke again. "There is no reason to threat, though, Kakashi. Danielle-san has managed to seal the being responsible for this mess away for the rest of eternity. By the way, where is your team now?" At this question, a depressed look from the silver-haired ninja as he tried to think of something to make it sound like he didn't lose a bet against a genin. "They, passed my exam with flying colors, and I was so impressed that I decided to take them to an all-you-can-eat buffet of their own choosing." All the Jonin could do was chuckle nervously as his own shadow clone dispersed, signaling that the three boys of Team 7 were now in Naruto's apartment playing some sort of card game with a giant mallet, small amounts of money, and some sort of pulley system. Apparently Naruto was somehow beating everyone against all odds, and this was his first time playing the game as well. The Hokage looked at the ninja in front of him before letting out a sigh and pulling out a small folder and tossing it over to the Jonin before speaking. "This file contains all relevant information about Danielle-san, but before opening it I suggest you go and ask him if it's okay. He was, after all, stabbed in the back several times by the people he trusts, and I don't think we can betraying what little trust he has in us at the moment." With a nod, Kakashi quickly departed, wanting to get a look at what the card game was about and also see what was with the giant hammer. Scene shift. Sasuke looked down at his cards with narrow eyes as he tried to figure out what he was going to do with the giant hammer hovering over his head ominously. He had only raised an eyebrow at the setup and upon hearing the rules, but now the reasons for the whole setup were quite obvious. On the table was some Ryo from the three boys' various bets, and Naruto was the one with the biggest amount on him. A small click was heard and he quickly put the ace of hearts on top of the jack of spades before ducking to the side as the hammer stopped where his head once was. The hammer was lifted back up and the strange contraption moved over Naruto's head as he smiled and held his last card like Danny. After everyone placed in their bets, with the Halfa placing a strange metal tube of some kind on the table, they all looked at their cards. Somehow the blonde put down the 2 of diamonds, which was the second highest ranking card, while smiling big time thinking he has won. Sasuke quickly seeing his chance put down his black joker and the ace of clubs, finally thinking he had won before all eyes fell on the Halfa. The smirk on his face was something that put worry on their faces, and the skunk-haired boy silently put down the red joker and winning the game hands down while speaking. That concludes this oddly named and possibly mental game from my homeland that I hope we never play again. Agreed. Sasuke and Naruto nodded, just glad that the game was over, as they all quickly got away from the table as the giant hammer fell down on top of it right after the Halfa got his winnings. If all of the games from your homeland are like this, Danny, then next time you play, do me a favor and leave me out of it. The last of the Uchiha clan spoke in a calm voice as the Halfa only glanced at the two of them curiously before shrugging and speaking. Yeah, I didn't even want to play this game, but Naruto was the one that claimed that all possible games I knew weren't that exciting and that I was quite boring. Now the two turned their heads to a sheepish Naruto, who shrunk back somewhat from their glares before quickly thinking of something to change the topic. Sorry about that. Hey Danny, what's with that metal tube of yours, and why are you so protective of it that you never leave it behind? Sasuke turned his head and slightly raised an eyebrow as the Halfa clutched his metal tube slightly closer to him. Before he could speak though, Kakashi strolled in through the front door and only looked at the ruined table for a moment as he spoke. I came here to find out what the game was you were playing, but now I don't think I would even want to know the name. Anyways, Danielle-san, I came here hoping I could possibly decipher the information in this file on you that the Hokage has given me since you went behind my back and did research on me. The silver-haired ninja just closed his one visible eye, smiling behind his mask as everyone turned their heads towards him before hearing the Jonin speak again. Also, would you mind explaining what is with that strange metal tube of yours anyways? As far as everyone knows, they think it is some sort of weapon of some sort. Cue a very depressed Danny at this moment as he took in a small breath of air before finally speaking. Fine, yes, you can read the file, Kakashi, and if you decided that Sasuke should know, then let him, but I really don't want the information getting out and into the general public, alright? As for the metal tube, it's a sacred object to my people. I'm sort of its guardian and will never let it fall into the wrong hands, and no, I will tell you nothing else. At this everyone shook their heads, including Kakashi, who was now reading the file silently after cutting the red tape that sealed it shut. At least that was what the Jonin was doing until quickly freezing in place and looking at the genin in front of him with a wide eye out of shock. You're the prince of an entire kingdom and never bothered to tell the council, Hokage, or anyone else. Kua totally shocked, and probably one of the most emotional faces ever from Sasuke at this point due to Kakashi's surprised shouting. Naruto and Danny though just gave the two deadpanned looks, as it were, already aware of the totally mind-blowing information as the Halfa spoke. First of all, please don't yell, I have sensitive hearing, and secondly, I overthrew the old king single-handedly when he tried to take over my village without knowing what would happen at the time. It was only after the destruction of everyone that I learned what overthrowing a king meant, and I never wanted the title of prince anyways. Besides, that's not the only important piece in there. You might want to skip to the part about my known abilities. You will find out why I don't wish to inform very many people. Quickly the Halfa went and drew some silencing seals on the ground around them and around the two ninja for the safety of Naruto's and his own ears. The black-haired and the silver-haired ninjas could only look at the file mildly impressed before going to totally flabbergasted. Their shouts of disbelief and total shock went unheard by anyone due to a certain skunk-haired preteen who chuckled at their reactions. Naruto was giggling like a certain fox. So, when do you think they will realize we can't hear them and that you placed a seal on the ground without them realizing? Naruto and Danny both looked at their sensei and team member moving their mouths in shouting, but sadly, no noise came out. No clue, but I think that we should possibly demote the silencing seal to marginally soundproof, since I can hear them by focusing in on them both, and I also picked up on learning to read lips. The two looked at their friends for a moment as they slowly stopped yelling and finally noticed the seal that was under them. With that, Kakashi and Sasuke quickly moved out from their silent prison, and no sooner than they did that, the silver-haired ninja spoke after disrupting the other seal. Explain everything to us. Right now, must know everything. how, when, where, possible. The information both of the shinobi picked up from that folder was enough to defy all the physical laws of chakra that either of them knew. Danny and Naruto only glanced at each other for a small moment before shaking their heads as the skunk-haired boy spoke. Clockwork is secretive and would no doubt be able to get away with killing me due to his actual age, so I'm not going to describe how he got the title MSTR of time. As for what little you read about me, my ability to manipulate ecto-energy and create things such as shields and projectiles are only a small portion of what I can do. As for my second form, I'm not going to be showing it to anyone unless the situation calls for it or we're in an extreme emergency. Finally, no, it is not possible for you to control it. As far as I know, the consequences of doing so would either render a person dying a horrible and/or toxic death, an explosion, never be able to use chakra again and be rendered useless as the two energies destroy each other, leaving you with no special powers whatsoever. With that, Danny finished while crossing his arms and looking at the two ninja in front of him as Naruto spoke. Trust me on this, he's more than capable of keeping a secret, and unlike most people he isn't corrupted easily. I should know, I used my sexy technique on him once. The trick barely even fazed him. Everyone gave the blonde a deadpan look upon hearing that before the skunk-haired teen let out a sigh and spoke again. Yeah, you could say I have had some rather interesting experiences with the opposite gender. Being more mature than most people came from having to deal with genius inventor parents who like to blow their tools up on a daily basis. Thanks to this and their strange ability to bring anything they cook to life, I know how to cook, wash cloths, and even keep secrets while under most forms strange and unusual punishments. The only thing that may get me to talk would possibly be a flower known as BLD blossoms, but that's pretty much the only thing that will cause me extreme harm. Team 7 had confused expressions as they looked at each other for a small moment after hearing the plant's name. Kakashi himself, who knew that Inoichi's wife and daughter worked a flower shop, was stumped in wondering what BLD blossoms were and what effect they had on him. But as if he was listening to their thoughts, the Halfa let out a small sigh before grabbing a sketchbook out of who knows where and opening it up to a picture of a peculiar-looking flower while speaking. This is what a BLD blossom looks like. They have a blackish-purple stem and look like a BLD red rose that have the ability to cause me pain by making every signal cell in my body explode individually. They are said to be painful in physical contact against the supernatural and can be used as a shield of some sort that prevents me from doing almost everything except screaming while lying on the ground in pain. The only known way to get rid of the effect is another person to eat them all, and despite a slightly bitter taste they are edible. Kakashi filed this information later in order to ask Yamanaka-san if she knew anything else about them and where to find them. At this, Danny closed his sketchbook and walked away to his room while leaving behind 3 very confused ninja. It was only when the door closed that Kakashi got over the shock before speaking to the remainder of his team in a calm voice. Well, now that is out of the way, will someone explain to me how his strange killing intent works? I'm still confused by that one bit of information. With that, the silver-haired Jonin and Sasuke turned to look at Naruto, who blinked for a moment until realizing that he was being looked at and spoke. Don't look at me, Enai-san used it to drive back the people who were chasing me one day after creating some sort of green energy field to stop them from beating me up. That's all he told me about it, I swear. Time skip, dream. Danny listened to the QB as the giant fox proceeded to laugh while in the real world Naruto twitched slightly in his sleep before speaking, and his voice carried over. Why do you laugh, Ramen? You know I always get you in the end. I will always love you in the end. This caused the giant demon fox to laugh even harder and the Halfa to shake his head while suppressing a chuckle as well. Eventually, though, Kurama managed to calm down and used one of his 9 tails to wipe away a few tears of mirth before speaking. That has got to be one of the most messed up attempts to get a family I have ever heard, and trust me, I have heard a lot of them. The kid has some seriously messed up dreams if what we just heard is anything to go by. Danny only sighed at this, not knowing how to reply to the last bit, as this could be true for all he knew. Yeah. Vlad is and was a total Fruit Loop. Danny though isn't half bad, and she can easily take on the Fright Knight if anything. The fox chortled as the halfa sat, floating in the air, crossed-legged before hearing the fox speak. That pumpkin is still around. Next time I see him I'll remind that annoying little spirit he still owes me for making that precious little sword of his. Meh, just have to make sure I have an ample supply of pumpkins nearby and possibly some floating chakra ball. He's terrified of them after what I did last time. Danny glanced at the QB wondering what exactly he did to get even that swordsman terrified. At this Danny scratched his head, finally realizing where Naruto got his love of pranks from after all this time. Okay then, guess that answers where Naruto got his love for pranking from. Anyways, I was hoping you could possibly tell me about Vlad's latest actions if it's not too much trouble. At this QB no Kitsune closed his eyes for a moment as the giant fox demon tried to figure something else before speaking. Meh, he's just tried to and failed to get the infinite map due to it having some new protector or something. Oh, and he's apparently looking into some sort of invention that can permanently remove one's powers. Doesn't even realize that he won't be able to use it on you due to the fact you control chakra now, and this makes you almost immune to that mechanism of his. When I get out of here though, the first thing I'll do is go find that halfa and eat him. He's just a pain really. Shaking his head, Danny only decided to leave the fox as the nine tails started to doze off in happy memories of him causing pain to others. Soon the boy was out of the apartment just enjoying a nice relaxing stroll about the village until he saw something coming at him. All the skunk-haired boy could do was let out a shriek of terror as his attacker mauled his face before taking off. Time skip, 30 minutes. From his position Naruto could only glance at his brother for a small moment as fear creeped onto the halfa's face. Sasuke could only raise an eyebrow at the visible red marks of the first of their team to fall victim to their target, before the mission even started. Even Kakashi had to feel sorry for their comrade as he slowly poked his head out from behind a tree in hopes of spotting the being responsible for this. This is Danny reporting from position C. I can see the target, and pariah, I would do anything not to get any closer than this. Soon everyone reported in, with Naruto being the last before they all moved to the next position, with the skunk-haired team being directly above said target. Okay, now. Right as these words left the silver-haired Jonin's mouth, a loud snapping sound was heard, causing the blonde and the black-haired boy to look up at their friend's position. As for Danny, he was frozen in place before suddenly having the branch he was on breaking and falling face first onto the ground. The instant he was up though, the boy let out a scream as their target, a brown cat with a red bow on its head, suddenly launched itself at him, snarling like its life depended on it. Report. What is the situation? Kakashi was now desperate as he could hear screams coming from the location his team was until a slightly out of breath Sasuke spoke. Everything is under control, Kakashi-sensei, though we might need some medical supplies due to Tora turning my teammates into its own scratching post. The Uchiha looked at his teammates as the halfa cowered behind Naruto, who held a glowing green cage with an angry cat in it hissing at them. Both of them having multiple scratches on their face, with the skunk-haired boy being the worst of them and possibly scarred for life, before speaking loud enough for everyone to hear him. I have faced monsters that I can't even describe, seen things that would leave people speechless, and even done some things that people would consider impossible, and all that pales when compared to that monster. Another hiss from Tora sent Danny instantly flying up into the trees out of fear, while the blonde held the cage as far away from his body as possible before speaking. Confirmed, the cat has a red ribbon on its right ear. Right, lost pet Tora, captured, mission accomplished. Kakashi let out a sigh of relief while mentally wondering what their resident halfa did to make the cat so angry at him, that it forgot its goal of running away in order to just plain attack him. A peace was maintained for a few seconds until the sound of the blonde's voice was heard clear as day without the headsets. Can't we get a better mission than this? I hate cats. Later in the Hokage's office, Team 7 stood waiting alongside their sensei with the halfa halfway between happiness and pity upon seeing Tora's owner practically crushing said cat. Even Naruto was happy after the beating he received from the cat to see it like this before the team turned their heads towards the Hokage, who was assigning them their next mission. Now then, for Team 7's we have several available tasks. among them babysitting the chief's counselor's 3-year-old, helping his wife to do the shopping, picking up potatoes - anything else was cut up as Naruto complained loudly and Danny taking a few steps away from Tora and his owner as they walked by him, out of fear upon the cat hissing and trying to scratch him. Eventually Kakashi got fed up as a shouting match started and Danny, who thought along same line, punched the blonde in back of the head as the Halfa ended up throwing a glob of sticky ectoplasm in the boy's mouth. While Naruto tried to remove and failed said ectoplasm, getting more and more tangled in it, the Hokage began to speak. Naruto. It seems you do not understand the tasks you have been given. Many different kinds of requests come into our village every day, from babysitting to assassinations. These requests are carefully recorded, analyzed, then ranked A, B, C, or D depending on their difficulty. We ninja are also ranked by ability, Hokage at the top, Jonin, Chunin, and Genin at the bottom. At the highest level we select the missions and assignments to the ninja who have the appropriate skill and experience, and if the mission is successful we receive a fee that supports our village and our work. Since you are untried genin just starting down the shinobi path, you are given D-level assignments of course. Somewhere along the line Naruto had managed to get out of his goo prison and GG much to Danny's confusion and was speaking to them about ramen. It was apparently more interesting of a conversation for everyone was actually listening in on it, causing the Hokage to stand up and say, "Silence." Instantly everyone turned to face him and once again the blonde started to complain, prompting the skunk-haired boy to let out a small sigh and prepare another one of his sticky gags, only to be stopped by Sasuke, who shook his head. Then in a startling turn of events the entire team was being given a C-rank mission as a result of said complaining. Danny though once again flung his ecto-energy at Naruto as he started to complain about the client who insulted him, prompting Kakashi to turn his head and speak. "Thanks Danielle-san, he was starting to give me a headache, how you even manage to deal with this every day is beyond me." Their client who went by the name of Tazuna glanced at the Halfa for a second with a raised eyebrow before taking another sip of his drink as said boy spoke. "Trust me when I say that I've met more annoying people back in my homeland, one of them having an unhealthy obsession related to boxes and would try to use them as a weapon of sorts." After this everyone was ready and heading towards the gate with Naruto once again managing to get out of his ectoplasmic goo-based restraint somehow. Once out there though yet another shouting match started until finally having enough of it Danny spoke. "Enough. If I hear one more word out of any your mouths Tazuna and Naruto I will permanently seal them both shut if it's the last thing I do, got it?" At this point the skunk-haired boy's eyes were both glowing green and Naruto shrunk down out of fear while Kakashi and Sasuke slowly reached for their weapons out of instinct before realizing they weren't feeling threatened at all. Tazuna though just raised an eyebrow again upon seeing both eyes turn green but stayed silent as the glare only met him for 1 second, sobering him up enough to say nothing and walk on by. The rest of the trip was spent in silence until Kakashi started to talk about the 5 great shinobi villages and what countries they are supported of. Danny though was just reminded of the 5 villages in the ghost zone that mirror said living villages and spoke. "That sounds a lot like my homeland, except everyone there has power and it's almost everyone for themselves. Rarely do you find actually villages or communities due to all the differences there are between everyone. As such there is a lot of chaos, but if a situation were to arise everyone would fight together for the fact of survival." Instantly all eyes were on the Halfa as they walked by a puddle with the silver-haired ninja being the only one to actually glance at it out of the corner of his eyes. At least until the Jonin caught sight of the green wisp coming out of Danny's mouth as they continued to walk. The entire group was suddenly caught in an ambush with 2 ninja that wrapped a chain around Kakashi before pulling it and seemingly cutting him into pieces. Naruto didn't waste a second as he suddenly turned around fast and tossed a kunai knife at one of the attackers as they appeared behind him. With that all 3 genin got into defensive positions around the bridge builder as they looked at the 2 assassins in front of them. In a burst of speed, Danny drew his sword from his bag, and charged at the 2 ninja in front of them. Naruto got on the defensive as both tried to dodge said attack, throwing some shuriken at the one on the right while Sasuke threw a kunai knife and some shuriken as well. The effect was a pin chain, a broken metal claw, one unconscious ninja due to the blunt end of the Halfa's sword, and one frozen in place due to the unnatural amount of foreboding death emanating from the 3 genin. No one was hurt yet as Danny readjusted his grip on his sword while attempting to read the actions of his opponent, friends, and allies. Naruto and Sasuke were more than ready for anything that happened as the ninja glared at the attacking shinobi, pissed expressions written clearly across their faces. They began to charge only to be forcefully grabbed by their neck by none other than a clearly still alive Kakashi. It seems I didn't need to jump in at all, but I couldn't just sit back and let you genin have all the fun now, can I? The Halfa smirked as he sheathed his sword back into its sheath, light refracting off the green jade hilt. Kakashi glanced at the bridge builder. "One moment please." Kakashi dragged the 2 away to be tied up. Upon returning he gave their client a look promising a large amount of pain and suffering. "If I were you, Tazuna, I would start explaining the whole truth right now before something bad happens, which in my case would be more for my safety than anything else." Tazuna froze in place upon hearing this, and eventually the 5 of them were looking at the captured ninja as the silver-haired jonin spoke to his squad. "They're chunin from the village hidden in the mist, they specialize in relentless attacks, and keep fighting no matter what the sacrifice." Naruto and Sasuke only raised an eyebrow as the Halfa stayed silent, studying the 2 as Naruto wanted Kakashi to explain how he knew it was an ambush. A puddle on a clear day when it hasn't rained in weeks, and Danny just so happens to have an external chakra sense that detected the technique. Kakashi spoke in a deadly calm voice while looking at the 2 captured enemies. "By the way, Naruto, I noticed you had gotten scratched on your hand. The claws are laced with poison, so we need to get the poison out, otherwise, you are going to die." Kakashi offhandedly informed him. This caused the blonde ninja to start a panic attack which led to him freaking out. "Ah! Get it out! Get it out! Get it out!" Naruto yelled, waving his hand around. "Easy, Naruto." His sensei placated the hyperactive ninja. The rest of what was said went unheard by Danny as he zoned out due to his limited omniscience powers taking hold. By the time he came back to, Sasuke was glancing at him from the corner of his eye while the silver-haired jonin was looking at Naruto's quickly healing hand from where he had stabbed himself for some reason. "Hey, Danny, you alright?" The last of the Uchiha spoke to his teammate with some slight concern in his voice as the Halfa took a few deep breaths and spoke. "I'm alright, just a small headache from my condition is acting up, nothing to worry about, yet at least." The last part was spoken under his breath, but Sasuke raised an eyebrow, having the feeling that his teammate was hiding something very important from them. Of course he understood the need for keeping some secrets quiet out of necessity. "Alright then, just make sure that your condition doesn't endanger the rest of our team. I don't want the only worthwhile rival my age dying on me anytime soon." By now everyone was walking again in hopes of getting to the land of waves. As for Danny, his mind was focused on 2 points of interest. One side of him was alert for danger, the other was having time to sort through the information he had gathered. Eventually they arrived at the harbor and managed to locate Tazuna's boat. Everyone was quiet as the helmsman navigated them the rest of the way towards their destination. After a few minutes of lingering silence, Tazuna let out a reluctant sigh and started to explain why he lied about the mission details, eventually talking about how Gato took over his village and drained it of its money. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at this new piece of information. "Gato? As in Gato Shipping Industries?" Tazuna admitted to the truth, saying that while Gato's image is officially shipping, he is actually a drag lord. When he took control over Wave, he took control of their only trade route to the mainland. Sigh, another power-hungry maniac. So much for hoping for no similarities between my old home and this one. Danny thought about how some wealthy individuals in the world always seem to be involved inside some sort of secret activity or something. Danny listened to the conversation where the bridge builder informed them about his family and ultimately convincing the team to stay on the underranked mission. Eventually they made landfall. After the helmsman of the boat left, the group continued on with their mission while Naruto spoke with his foster brother. Hey Danny, you've been kind of quiet this whole time, is something on your mind? The skunk-haired boy looked over at the blonde-haired boy for a moment as they continued to walk before speaking. I don't know, it's just. I can't help but think how this Gato seems to be similar to my own archenemy from back in my homeland, Vladimir Masters aka Vlad Plasmius, Sasuke, Tazuna, and Kakashi quietly looked over at the skunk-haired boy upon him mentioning the name of his archenemy. Truthfully, both ninja knew very little except that the two were basically the same and despised each other, but beyond that nothing. As for the bridge builder, he was still trying to figure the young boy out. Vlad is a crazy lunatic who apparently has it in his mind that since we're both the same that he automatically is guaranteed the unofficial right and permission to train me. But, that was before I could use chakra. This statement made his sensei pause in his thoughts. What does he mean before he could use chakra? All living beings are born with it. Yet he speaks of it as if chakra was the second power he learned to use. I will need to bring this up with the Hokage when I get the chance. As well as question Danielle. He may care about his team, but with each answer, I find more holes and more questions than answers. Danny paused as he spoke and after a few minutes of thought let out a sigh and continued on with his current train of thought. Vlad himself holds at least 20 years of experience with similar abilities under his belt, but because of these powers he has become twisted and wanted to either kill my father, marry my mother, and/or have me as his own son and apprentice. For him the death of my clan resulted in him having my father killed, completing part one of his goals, but he can never achieve the second goal due to my mother dying. As for the third part, I cannot go with him, else it would be the catalyst to a possible danger capable of bringing about destruction that I doubt even the Kyuubi would be capable of pulling off alone. Kakashi mulled these thoughts over in his mind as he didn't think anything could come close to the Nine Tails massacre those years ago. Everyone continued to listen as the Halfa became lost in thought while letting more information out that he didn't want to. He despised lying and knew that it would come back to bite him one day. Of course he wanted to put that off for as long as he could. Danny looked at his two teammates and sensei. He had already become close friends with the team and could speak to them about his life, but it would be a while before he felt he could entrust his team with the full truth. Both truths regarding his powers and his life story. That same event that created the monster has happened to me, but I chose a different path. Yet that future is gone and the creature still exists, trapped outside of time. It's still capable of bringing entire worlds to its knees in a matter of months or years. I've seen the danger of what happens if it were to exist, and only managed to win by the element of surprise and the skin of my teeth. Even now I fear what would happen if this thing were to get out and learn of its new existence outside of time. The whole thing would result in death and destruction of everything, with not even I and the Kyuubi, if it was still alive, working together would be able to stop it. Danny finished the conversation as his team stared at him lost for words. But eventually Naruto heard something rustling in the bushes and threw a kunai knife at it. The blonde slowly crept towards the location he threw the knife before seeing a white rabbit that had fainted. Way to go, Dobe, you sensed a rabbit, and here I thought we were going to be involved in a major battle. Sasuke spoke while shaking his head. As for the blonde, he instantly went and grabbed said rabbit as the skunk-haired boy walked over to Kakashi. A snow rabbit in the middle of summer with its winter coat on, this practically screams trap from any angle. He admitted dryly. The Jonin looked at the genin beside him for a moment, almost surprised to see that someone besides him had recognized it as a trap. Danny's eyes narrowed as he muttered to his sensei, one enemy Jonin, currently hiding in a tree somewhere and waiting for the moment to strike, best be ready to dodge an attack at any moment. There is another out there as well, possibly a hunter nin, from the way its chakra signature is, might be tracking him or working together. A warning, stay sharp, Kakashi-sensei. Danny walked away while getting ready to fight or protect his team, while Kakashi looked around ready for an attack from one, possibly two foes. Look out! The Jonin yelled towards the group, causing everyone notice a giant spinning sword coming right at them. They all jumped out of the way in time, causing it to miss and embed itself into a tree before someone fell onto its handle, managing to stand on it perfectly. The shinobi in question looked to be as tall as Kakashi, had a face mask on and a scratched-out Kiri headband. Be careful everyone, he's not like the other ninja, he's in a different league from the other two. If that is who I think it is, then I'll need this could be treacherous. Kakashi moved his hand over his forehead protector that covered his other eye. The enemy ninja chuckled. Kakashi of the Sharingan eye, did I get that right? It's too bad but you will have to hand over the old man. Sasuke glanced at their sensei out of the corner of his eye for a moment and noticed that his sensei held a red eye with 3 tomo. Everyone protect Tazuna. Danny slowly reached for his own sword. While Naruto stood frozen in place, kunai knife in hand to protect himself. Quickly, the group of genin got into mungi formation to protect the bridge building on their sensei's orders. The skunk-haired Halfa had his sword out as well to possibly help hold back any attacks, but whether or not if he added his power to the blade, he doubted if it would work against his opponent's Sanbato. Did I get that right? A thick mist started to roll in, causing everyone to tense up. The enemy ninja then quickly drew his sword from the tree it was in and moved to stand on top of the water. Kakashi had his Sharingan eye out and everyone was tense as they saw the man use ninja art, hidden mist jutsu. Momochi Zabuza, he's the ex-leader of the hidden mist assassination unit, he's a MSTR of the silent killing technique. Naruto started to shake in fear hearing this while Danny kept his eyes peeled, his green eye glowing faintly as it appeared to see through the mist to a degree. A small smile crossed his face. Must be the fact that I'm half ghost, all the free-floating chakra isn't as effective on my kind of undead, and since ecto-energy can act as a neutralizer to chakra I can easily pull back the layers and see clearly, with some exceptions of course. Using his one eye Danny managed to see through the mist but was unable to spot the location of Zabuza while Kakashi continued to talk. As the name suggests, it happens in an instant without sound or warning of any kind, it's so fast you pass from this life without even realizing what has happened. The Sharingan cannot fully neutralize it, so don't lower your guard, if we fail though we'll only lose our lives. Slowly the mist started to get thicker and eventually Kakashi faded away causing Danny to realize why he couldn't see Zabuza. The mist acts like a cloak wrapping the user inside of it so that they effectively become part of the mist. These ninja must be good if they can counteract the eyes of the dead. Zabuza cackled as he noticed how uneasy the genin were through the mist. 8 points, larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart now, which will be my attack point. Through the mist Zabuza spoke shocking everyone except Danny who knew none of those points would actually be able to kill him. Thinking back on it clockwork had told him that even though he has a human body, only a direct hit to his core could increase the chance to kill him. The plus side to this was that he had to change forms in order to actually be killed, otherwise he would just regenerate as his ecto-energy and chakra attempted to heal him. Danny shook his head of those thoughts, reminding himself that he was not invincible. The skunk-haired teen held his sword back while keeping his senses alert. Kakashi used a move that blew away some of the mist and covered his body in a blue aura of chakra as he let out his killer intent. Instantly Danny let out his own haunting aura as it tended to balance out the effects upon those in the party as he himself dealt with the full force of it. But after facing Pariah Dark and Fright Night it was easy to brush off all the killer intent that was out there. Out of the corner of his eye, Sasuke could see the skunk-haired boy's brows grow closer as he tightened his grip on his sword lightly before letting it go. It was only obvious to the ninja and those that knew him, but it was safe to say that the Halfa was able to deal with the full force of the killer intent and easily shrug it off. Zabuza landed in the middle of the 3 genin and bridge builder catching all of them off guard. Right as the ninja was about to use his massive sword to bisect the bridge builder, Kakashi rushed forward scattering the group before plunging his own kunai knife into the enemy ninja. Danny fought back the urge to vomit, after all even though he may have seen someone killed before like his own friends and family. The method of killing in silence didn't exactly appeal to him much, and since he was a protector it went against his obsession to let someone die. At the same time he rationalized that he was protecting himself, and even though he didn't kill, he could at least allow people to defeat opponents easier without taking lives himself. Didn't mean he would enjoy it though. Some of the tension left the Halfa as everyone noticed that instead of blood coming out of the enemy ninja, there was water. Behind Kakashi, another Zabuza appeared out of the mist as the other one turned into water as he attempted to cut the copy ninja in half. The result was the silver-haired Jonin seemingly get cut in half before suddenly turning to water as well, while the real one appeared behind him holding a kunai knife to the enemy ninja's neck and speaking. "Don't move, now it's over." Nearly everyone relaxed, but Danny kept his sword out and ready for any more surprises as he continued to scan around the area. Something didn't feel right. If Zabuza was captured, why didn't he lower the mist? Realization hit him like one of Vlad's punches. He realized what Zabuza's plan was. Suddenly seeing what Zabuza was after, the skunk-haired yelled out loud. "It's a trap, the real Zabuza is right behind you." The water clone turned into water at this instant while Kakashi turned around, just barely managing to duck at the same time to avoid the giant sword. Not wanting to be outdone by a leaf ninja, Zabuza quickly let go of his sword and delivered a devastating kick that sent the copy ninja flying into the water. The three genin and bridge builder could hear chuckles as the enemy ninja caught Kakashi by surprise again and imprisoned him using the water prison jutsu to entrap the jonin. This prison may be made of water, but it's stronger than steel. It's strong to fight when you can't move. So much for the great Kakashi. I'll finish you off later, but first your little friends will have to be eliminated, especially the one with the skunk hair, water clone jutsu. At this another Zabuza came out of the water while everyone stared at in shock, all the while the real Zabuza glanced at the blonde ninja. You think wearing a headband makes you a ninja? When you've hovered between life and death so many times that it doesn't faze you, then you may be called a ninja. When you've become so deadly, your profile has been entered into my bingo book, then you may have earned the title ninja. But to call upstarts like you ninja is a joke. Naruto's face became strong upon hearing this alongside Sasuke's and Danny's, but at the moment the skunk-haired boy was more than ready for anything as a small smirk appeared on his face. The blonde was suddenly kicked by the water clone and his headband fell onto the ground where the fake Zabuza proceeded to step on it. Kakashi addressed his students. "Listen, get the bridge builder and run, you can't win this fight, he's using all his power to keep me in this prison so he can only fight you with his water clone. But the clone can't go far from his real body, if you get away from him he can't follow, now run." Everyone was tense as Sasuke looked around, and after a moment Danny could see what his teammate was going to do before getting ready to throw his own kunai knife, one of three. Soon enough the black-haired boy started to run towards the water clone while throwing ninja stars, which was blocked by the clone's huge sword. Using this as a distraction, Sasuke jumped into the air while holding his own kunai knife and getting ready to plunge it into said water clone. Seeing his chance, Danny summoned as much strength as he could before launching his own kunai knife at the enemy ninja. The result was the water clone turning back into water as the Uchiha landing on the ground before giving a nod of thanks to the skunk-haired boy. The black-haired boy tossed the headband back to Naruto, who also nodded in thanks before putting it back on and speaking. "Thanks, now I have a plan, so let's go wild." Zabuza created another water clone as Sasuke jumped back into position alongside his friends. The bridge builder asked them to forget about him and rescue their sensei. This made the new water clone of Zabuza start to laugh as it got into position where the old one was. Kakashi started to go into the backstory of the enemy ninja in front of them, until Danny interrupted them. "That is. It's alright sensei, I know a little bit about these people." Danielle glanced at the swordsman. Zabuza is known as the Demon of the Mist due to the fact that he approached the entire group of ninja trainees and without any training he killed them all. Since that day the village hidden in the mist had changed how they operate their final exam to make sure they will not have to go through that again. You also were the weakest amongst the rest of the 7 swordsmen. The Zabuza clone's eyebrow twitched. "So, it appears that the skunk-haired boy knows about me, and I see he is also a swordsman, let's see how good he is. Kakashi screamed out a cry of no as the water clone charged at Danny, only to hold back his shock upon seeing the skunk-haired boy jump over the blade and cut the clone in half with one vertical slash. I learned lots of techniques of my own, some of them having been lost to those nations that they originated from. Danny admitted as he disappeared into the shadows. Slowly Danny's voice came from a shadow on the ground while everyone looked at him, and right as he opened his now glowing green eyes the boy spoke. Now. I think it's time that I started to put some of those techniques to good use instead of just keeping them hidden. Lost technique, shadow traveling jutsu. Kakashi's eyes went wide open alongside Zabuza's upon hearing this as the skunk-haired boy suddenly started to collapse into his own shadow as the jonin spoke. But, it's impossible that jutsu has been lost since the Second Shinobi World War. How does a genin know how to perform this technique? Zabuza kept looking around while Naruto and Sasuke kept looking at the location their last friend was at out of shock. As for Danny, he knew he could only use this technique for so long before he fell into the shadows forever and had to make this strike count. Without waiting, he leapt up out of the enemy ninja's shadow, trying to cut the arm off that was holding Kakashi in a prison of water. This resulted in the enemy ninja having no choice but to release the imprisoned silver-haired jonin or else risk losing his arm. Momentarily the Halfa was blinded as he made his way back to land and collapsed onto the ground due to the length of time shadow traveling. Taking a few deep breaths though, the skunk-haired teen eventually managed to break his level 1 cap and replenish his chakra reserves enough to stand up even if he had trouble adjusting to the light. Eventually though, the sounds of fighting came to a stop and Danny could feel someone picking him up, which turned out to be Sasuke. Nice try on the attempt to free Kakashi, Danny. Zabuza caught him again, but it was thanks to your distraction that Naruto and I were able to use the Shadow Shuriken Jutsu to get the drop on him. Kakashi is out cold from chakra exhaustion, and Zabuza was taken by a hunter nin after he was beaten. By the way, that was an impressive jutsu you used. Some light was coming back to the skunk-haired boy's eyes now, and he could clearly see that an unconscious Kakashi was being supported by multiple Narutos. The group still continued on towards Tazuna's house. Would you care to fill us in on your little trick, or are you just going to leave us hanging, Danielle? Danny only glared out of the corner of his still hazy eye towards the Uchiha. Sasuke, the technique, shadow traveling jutsu is a technique that was said to have been lost during the Second Shinobi World War. This jutsu allows one person to travel through the shadows themselves. This means they can get practically anywhere, as wherever there is light, there is shadow. But, a drawback lurks around this technique. You see, you can only use this thing once a day and at most for 1 minute, or else you risk being trapped in the shadows forever. Not something I'd advise doing any time soon, as it practically zapped most of my chakra, and if it wasn't for me breaking one of my chakra caps I would be unconscious by now. I am also not really used to it as it's not used often. Time skip, the next day. After the group reached Tazuna's house, the squad laid their sensei down to rest. Tazuna introduced them to his daughter, Tsunami. Everyone had recovered from the day before, and Kakashi had woken up alarmed and proclaimed that the hunter nin didn't follow regular protocol, otherwise he would have destroyed the body. Therefore Zabuza was still alive. Thanks for getting me out of the water prison, everyone. Kakashi's pride was a little wounded as he got captured twice. The silver-haired jonin turned to face the third member of his team. By the way, Danielle, where on earth did you learn the lost technique known as shadow traveling jutsu? Zabuza was right on one thing. That technique has been lost since the Second Shinobi War. Danny was still slightly recovering from using this technique, but upon hearing his name looked up and spoke. I'll tell you what I told Sasuke, certain parties in my homeland have kept an eye on the shinobi arts for as long as they have been around. Something I didn't tell them though is despite knowing them no one bothers to use them for reasons unknown to me. You don't have to worry though, they have filled me in on what happened after I used it. By the way, Kakashi-sensei, what protocols were you talking about? Hunter nin destroy the bodies of those they kill on the spot, the fact this hunter Nin has taken Zabuza's body means that they are in league with him. By using throwing needles or Senbon they were able to induce a death-like state upon him that was capable of fooling even me. We should prepare for his return if anything. At the very most I would probably say we have a week before he comes back from that. Sasuke and Naruto were now looking at their sensei in shock alongside Tazuna and his wife while Kakashi just looked at the boys with a schooled face of no emotion. After dealing with Tazuna's grandson Inari, whom got into a little spat with Naruto about whether or not he was really doing anything for them, as Gato and his men crushed any and everyone. Naruto claimed that Kaiza was a hero to the people because he brought hope to them and that was what a hero did. Their sensei brought the rest of the team out to a clearing to see if he could get them stronger for the next confrontation. Kakashi decided to start off by giving a brief review of what chakra was in a simple enough way that even Naruto could understand. Chakra is the elemental life energy a ninja uses in jutsu, it's the source of all its power. Now this energy has two parts: physical energy which exists in all the cells in the entire body working together, and spiritual energy, the primal source of power which is intensified through training and experience. These two types of chakra must be drawn out and combined together to perform jutsu, while hand signs focus and unleash the chakra, with a few exceptions here and there being a few techniques that don't require hand seals. While Kakashi continued to talk, Danny thought about the lesson in chakra. He wasn't invincible under any stretch of means. But if he came across a situation where one of his energy sources was cut off, he would need to learn to fight back using one or the other. Relying on just one thing can get a person killed, and if Vlad did turn up and neutralize his abilities to use ecto energy somewhat, then he have something to fall back on. But that could only work if he knew how to fully control his abilities, both ecto energy and chakra, separately and together. Each type of jutsu requires different amounts of chakra in different proportions. You must select and combine them in exactly the right way. Up till now you just guessed at the proportions, hoping they come out right. Even if you produce a lot of chakra, unless you balance and control it, it's all worthless. The jutsu won't work at all, or it'll just be a joke. Naruto here understands that most of his original efforts with the clone jutsu were enough proof. You waste so much energy that way, then you're out of chakra and can't fight at all, you're just a target. Naruto was confused on what Kakashi was talking about as usual. But sensei, even if we learn better through seeing someone else balance their chakra, then how can we learn if you're too weak to even do a demonstration? Their sensei smiled at the blonde's antics. Putting two hands together, even if he had to use crutches for a while, Kakashi focused his chakra into his feet where he showed them being able to walk up the tree despite his handicap. Kakashi leapt off the tree. Taking 3 kunai out of his pouch, he tossed the 3 kunai into 3 different trees. Each of you will need to work on stretching your reserves and controlling your chakra output. Too little chakra and you won't stick to the tree, too much and you blow yourself off the tree. Does everyone understand? The 3 of his students nodded. Alright, get started all of you. Naruto and Sasuke got started immediately. Naruto had trouble as he kept blowing himself off and Sasuke couldn't get himself to stick. Danny would have started but something was bothering him. The silver-haired Jonin noticed his 3rd student lost in thought. Kakashi made his way over to the 3rd student. Something on your mind, Danielle? Do you have trouble understanding this? You won't know unless you try. Danny shook his head. That's not what I am thinking about. Is there somewhere else we can talk without them hearing? Kakashi raised an eyebrow at him but motioned for him to follow. Alright, what is this about? Taking a deep breath, Danny began. Kakashi, I respect you as a sensei and you know a lot more about how a team is supposed to work, especially outside of the village. The Jonin didn't know where was going with this. Continue. Kakashi, please do not take this the wrong way. I am not doing this to get away from the mission, but I am worried about something. Something we didn't count on until now, and that is why I am asking you to let me return to the village and come back with more additional help. Kakashi's eye narrowed at him. What brought this on? Danny looked at his sensei in the eye, there was something my people once talked about called Murphy's Law, which means that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Considering it is indeed their first mission and against a jonin that could kill us, that I could understand, and I don't want to damage their pride or insult the team any more than that. But what worries me is the possibility that Gato may have hired more mercenaries, which I am pretty sure our team can handle. You can probably handle Zabuza yourself. Me and my team can handle one or more Chunin level ninja he may have with him. But, what I mean to say is that with the money and resources at Gato's disposal, wouldn't there be the possibility of him hiring more ninja, maybe even more Chunin or Jonin level ninja we never expected? Kakashi's eye widened as he never considered that. Kakashi, I want to stay here and help the team with getting ready for Zabuza or the next ambush. Any way that I can. If you know of another way to ask for help without sending one of us back to the village, I would love to hear you out and stay to help. I just have a bad feeling about something dangerous coming down the road on this mission, and for some reason, I don't think it's Zabuza. Kakashi felt an ominous sensation in his student's words, but he learned to trust his student's senses so far. His sensei looked down sheepishly. Well, there is one thing I do have. But it will probably take a week for backup to get here. You alright with that? Danny figured that he would have to deal with the consequences of his actions sooner or later, but nodded anyway. Kakashi set his crutches down. Biting his thumb, he went through a set of hand signs and pressed his hand down. Summoning jutsu. A pug with a headband and vest appeared and looked around. Kakashi. It's been a while. Danny stood in awe that the dog just talked. Even the animals back home never did this, and most beast ghosts had very little intellect when it came to human speech except for people like Wolf. Haku, I need you to head back to the village and deliver a message to the Hokage that we need backup. Haku caught a whiff of something and looked towards Danny. Sniffing a little bit, he asked, Kid, why do you have the faint smell of corpses? Danny looked sheepish. Part of what I am. Danny turned serious. Please, Pakuan-san, Kakashi isn't the only one asking for help. I am as well. Kakashi and Pakuan nodded before he bounded off. Danny looked at his sensei and smiled. Thank you, sensei. Danny headed on back to the clearing to start on the exercises. He glanced back at him smiling. You have got to tell us sometime how that trick works. That talking dog was pretty cool. Kakashi didn't know what to make of him. On one hand, he did not have complete faith that they could complete this mission without anything going wrong. On the other, he wants the mission to succeed and cares a lot for everyone and is at the very least looking out for the possibility that they all get back alive. Danny went back to the trees to try his luck at his sensei's exercise. A few failed attempts of his own, he had managed to make his way to the top. This continued for several minutes as he worked his way up and down from the bottom to the middle of the tree so as to get a better feel. He continued this pattern until he decided to head to the top. Unfortunately, as soon as he managed to get to the top, a single squirrel jumped down onto his head. The Halfa looked up for a moment before paling at the sight of the amount of squirrels that got into the tree he was on. Oh, CRP. Without warning, the squirrels all attacked, causing the skunk-haired boy to lose his concentration and fall out of the tree screaming. Kakashi stood wide-eyed at the sight of his student trying to fight off the massive amount of furry creatures on him, though he was having a strong time trying not to laugh. Even Naruto and Sasuke were startled at the sight of their team member being attacked. Kakashi and Sasuke looked towards the blonde for answers. Certain animals really don't like my brother. Exceptions include bats, foxes, canines, wolves, giant cats, and some reptiles. Canines are usually indifferent. Kakashi glanced in curiosity at that last part. For some reason, it explained Pakin's reaction to his student. By now Danny had managed to get the squirrels off of him and make them return to their tree. The last one though stood on a lower branch and threw a signal nut at his head while chattering angrily. Most animals either like or ignore him like normal, while others, yeah. Naruto gave his adopted brother an apologetic look before Danny collapsed onto his knees trying to catch his breath. Kakashi looked over at his student for a moment trying to consider his options before letting out a sigh. Alright then. Danielle, since we don't want to risk any more animals trying to attack you, why don't you go and guard Tazuna? The Alpha gestured a small thanks while his body was covered in multiple scratches. The Jonin though looked at the genin as a few drops of oddly colored green and red BLD dripped down him. The instant they came out of contact with his body the BLD turned into steam for some reason. Alright, what the heck is wrong with his BLD? Could it be part of his bloodline? Scene shift. Tazuna worked on the bridge with what men he had while keeping an eye on Danny, who despite acting like a guard was going about and helping everyone build the bridge. To the bridge builder, the teen was an enigma who just kept on growing with every passing second. For at one moment he could be deadly serious and the next his personality did a 180 turn where he was willing to help out anyone who needed it. The more the bridge builder thought about it the more of an enigma the kid became until finally he couldn't help it but question the teen. Are you always this helpful? Where's that weird blonde kid and the one with an attitude? Looking over from where he was moving a pile of materials, Danny looked to the bridge builder. Yes, and as for Naruto and Sasuke, they're trying to complete the exercise our sensei has given them. The details of which I won't bore you with about. Tazuna gave Danny a look of confusion before one of the workers came over and started to talk with him. As for said boy he ignored the conversation until the man went away and the client turned to face him again. You know kid, you're an enigma to me, some say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, but when I look into them I can't help but think you're older than you look. At this Danny raised an eyebrow before waiting for Tazuna to continue. Everyone that I've ever met I was able to get a read on their personalities including your sensei, but for some reason I can't get anything from you. If anything I'd say your mind is older than your body is and that you've seen things that no man ever should, and fought battles longer and harder than anyone else ever has. From a distance I can tell that you feel the weight of the entire world on your shoulders and then some. The skunk-haired boy was quiet for a moment as he continued to move about materials. You have no clue what I have seen and yet you are not that far from the truth. I've managed to hold power that could have made me a god, some might even say I am one. I've even seen the end of the world and managed to stop it by myself. Tazuna's eyebrows got closer together as he got the feeling he was going to learn more than the village the boy came from. That thing that we heard Zabuza say, about being on the edge of life and death without it fazing you. I walk that same path every day. I myself am the enigma of the universe literally bound to walk on the line that is life and death itself, neither one but both. This is something I don't want to share with the others, not even my brother. If anything I do carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, for good reason. The lessons that every ninja has to learn sometime in their life. I've already learned them and much more. At that Danny stopped talking and the bridge builder had a particular feeling that he couldn't describe. Getting his composure together Tazuna faced him. Why are you telling me this? Wouldn't you want to keep that as much as a secret as possible? The skunk-haired boy looked down before finally speaking. I do want to keep it a secret, but I know that you will keep it a secret with your dying breath Tazuna, after all I believe that Kaiser may have been the same way. If Danny had bothered to look at Tazuna he would have saw the man looking at him in shock upon hearing that name. Time skip, supper. Danny could only shook his head upon seeing Naruto and Sasuke getting into an eating contest before both of them got sick. Even Kakashi had to shake his head while wondering why the only normally sane student on the team happened to be the skunk-haired preteen. After the meal, Naruto noticed a picture that was torn and asked about it while the Halfa slipped away unnoticed by all. Not even the silver-haired Jonin noticed the boy slip away silently and head outside to sort out his thoughts. Naruto was informed that Kaiser was Inari's late stepfather. The man had tried to stand up to Gato only to be made an example of for any who tried to challenge him. Inari ranted out that they were all going to die and that Gato will always win. Naruto got into his face saying that he doesn't know what suffering truly was. He actually stood up for what he believed in and asked Inari what did he think his father would say if he saw him like this. Before he left himself, Naruto let Inari know how lucky he was to actually have family still. He never knew his parents. Sasuke lost all his family save for his traitorous brother, and Danny lost not only his family but his closest friends all at the same time. So basically their whole team was a bunch of orphans. The small child was left mouth open, questioning their sensei and Sasuke if what he said was true. Kakashi replied that was the sugar-coated version of the story, and Naruto left out what happened in his life beforehand for a reason. Everybody left for bed once everything was cleaned up. By the time that the sun had risen, the Alpha was still partially awake, unable to sleep much due to the massive amounts of ecto-energy and chakra inside of him. Sasuke came out of the building and raised an eyebrow upon seeing the skunk-haired boy but left him alone to go for a walk. Kakashi came out and smirking slightly he walked over to the Alpha, but before he could use one of his crutches to push the boy into the water, Danny spoke. "If you even dare try to push me into the water, I will reveal to the village that you lost a bet to a genin by showing everyone that video." Kakashi froze upon hearing the whisper in his ear, and turning around he saw that a clone of Danny was standing right behind him. Kakashi whined about his student trying to take away the humor. "Danielle, would you mind helping me to find your teammates?" Later on, the two were walking through the woods while trying to find either Sasuke or Naruto. The silver-haired jonin spoke. "Danielle, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly are the downsides of the shadow traveling jutsu?" Glancing at his sensei, the Alpha genin raised an eyebrow at hearing his sensei ask him a question before shaking it off. "Basically what you already know, Kakashi. If you spend more than a minute in the shadow using the technique, you risk being turned into a shadow forever. Other side effects include but are not limited to chakra exhaustion, blindness, deafness, spewing chunks, loss of motor control, missing body parts, and death. The reason it's considered a lost jutsu is due to these side effects." His sensei understood that part, as most shinobi these days would have gone through that thing recklessly, and then the villages would lose valuable shinobi. Eventually they found the blonde high up in the tree. Apparently Naruto had been trying for most of the morning to try and get to the top of the tree. Danny was greatly impressed that Naruto finally got up to the top. Even if he graduated as dead last, he was able to thankfully figure this out. Considering both had help, the three were actually starting to get along better. Feeling a little bit prideful, Naruto focused his chakra to his feet and walking underneath the tree branch upside down. Unfortunately, because he was too focused on his pride, he lost his concentration and nearly fell headfirst towards the ground. Before Kakashi could come up with a response to save his blonde student, Naruto was saved by Sasuke. The silver-haired jonin shook his head thinking that, if I'm still sane by the end of their training, it will be a miracle. Maybe I should get some tips from Danny on how he manages to stay sane. Naruto grumbled about having to be saved by Sasuke, while Danny smiled, shaking his head at his brother's antics. "Naruto, they say that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We are only on our first C-rank mission. It's only logical that people become wiser through experience." The blonde grumbled, saying something about wanting to at least something done before Sasuke did. Danny raised an eyebrow as he shook his head. "Naruto, my brother, each person is special in their own way. Sometimes you do worse than them, sometimes you do better. I admit, I myself am not perfect." The alpha pre-teen walked away while speaking in a voice low enough that only Kakashi could hear him. "If you need me, I'll be blowing off some steam training in my other form. Quite possibly it might be midnight or something before you hear from me again. Don't wait up for me, and please don't follow either. If you think that certain techniques that you know of are powerful, then you don't know what I'm truly capable of." The skunk-haired boy walked away without a word, and after ducking behind a tree turned invisible and intangible before walking back and hearing their sensei speak. "Naruto, Sasuke, come here for a minute. I would like for you to tell me if you are interested about a mission between the three of us." Kakashi looked up at his remaining two students, who only glanced at each other before heading down to the ground. Kakashi proceeded to speak to Naruto and Sasuke about his plan. Alright boys, listen up. As you know, our teammate dannyphantom has another form that no one has ever seen yet. I don't know what our favorite skunk-haired friend is hiding, but I want to see if one of us can get him to change forms. This may be a unique bloodline only limited to people like him, but the fact that he's been able to keep it a secret so far means we got us a real challenge that not even the ANBU who have tried to follow him have had any accomplishment. By now Danny was having a strong time not laughing as he saw both Sasuke and Naruto exchange startled looks with each other upon hearing this, especially when Naruto and Sasuke started sporting grins. For the sake of our village's honor, we must find out how he changes forms and the true limitations of our teammates' abilities. When Kakashi finished, the two genin looked at each other before the both nodded and the silver-haired jonin spoke again. Alright then, I'm not in the best condition right now, but you two should go out there and find where he is right now before he changes and make sure you're not caught. Smirking Danny waited a few seconds before he easily managed to make a cold wind chill that made everyone shiver slightly while chuckling evilly. This made everyone freeze in place out of fear as they felt his voice sink into their very bones as the Halfa spoke, still invisible and intangible, while his voice came from all around them. If it's a challenge on seeing me change, then it's a challenge on seeing me change you will get, and let's just hope that a certain video doesn't go out if you do fail to find me, Kakashi-sensei. Smirking, the Halfa easily left the clearing he was in while behind him the ninja were frozen in place out of fear. Time skip, 1 week later. On the 7th day, Danny decided to do a little spying on Gato to see what the man might try. Leaving a note for the team, he headed on out. Leaping off in the early part of the morning towards Wave Village, Danny saw how most of the people were still getting what they had ready for the day. Glancing into the building, Danny turned invisible. He could see hundreds of Gato's henchmen were lined up in an orderly manner, which was strange to Danny. It looked as if they were expecting someone important. He waited a few more minutes. When he decided that he had enough, he noticed the door had opened and two hunter nin walked in. The strange thing was that while they dressed in the black garb, they had the Kiri symbol on their forehead protector. "Welcome, Hunter Nin, to my humble abode." Gato smugly introduced himself as looked at the men that came in armed. One of the Hunter Nin spoke up. "Thank you for inviting us in, Gato-san. Is there a more formal place we can discuss business?" Gato nodded in approval. "Right this way please." He gestured for 6 of his guards to follow him. They brought their meeting to a rather large office. Danny thought it was the size of Vlad's living area in his old castle. Gato sat down behind his desk facing the Hunter Nin. "I assume that the Mizukage is aware of the deal. He had been informed from me, isn't he?" Danny's eyebrows scrunched together. "The Mizukage? I don't like the sound of this. Mizukage-sama has read the terms of your deal and he finds that they are somewhat lacking, and due to your past actions, he is in doubt about your ability to keep your promise." Gato looked disappointed. "You say that he finds my terms unacceptable. I promise to inform you of Zabuza's location and time of appearance. Kirigakure sends Hunter Nin to capture him. You get a 35% of the cuts from my business for the next month, as well as one of the 7 swordsmen and his blade. That is what you want, isn't it? The other jonin and his squad are fair game." Gato remarked as his smile had returned. The terms he said were lacking, not unacceptable. As you are aware, Kirigakure is currently undergoing civil war, and as such we require all the firepower we can acquire to eradicate the bloodline wielders. Gato started to argue. "But as you are aware, civil war is bad for business. I may be the head of a drag cartel, but even so, I need to make a business grow somewhat if I am to make a profit myself." One of the Hunter Nin drew his tanto and positioned it in front of Gato's chest, making Gato's eyes widen behind his sunglasses. "Remember, Gato-san, you had your messenger come to us for assistance. Kiri would have located Zabuza and his comrades eventually. This way you sped up the process for both sides. The addition to the deal is this: you continue to provide Kirigakure with the 35% for the next month, and the next 2 months after that you will be transporting supplies for the Mizukage. You will be doing this to the best of your ability. That's 2 jonin 1 month each. Considering that one of the jonin you informed us of is the infamous Hokage Kakashi. Should Konoha get wind of this, we will be coming down on you. Got it? Gato begrudgingly nodded. Good to know, and just so as you know, to ensure this deal actually goes through, a squad of 50 Hunter Nin and the Mizukage himself will be coming here today to finalize the deal and to ensure Zabuza's downfall himself. He owes the man anyway. Danny hightailed it out of there and went straight back to the area where Tazuna's house was. Knowing that Kakashi and the others needed to be close by. He had no idea where his team was, but he hoped that they might already be at the bridge. Danny looked inside and saw Tazuna's daughter Tsunami and Inari getting ready for the day. His eyes full of panic, Danny grabbed Tsunami. Tsunami. Please. I need to know. Where are my team and Tazuna? The bridge builder's daughter looked bewildered to see the kid in such a state. They are heading towards the bridge. Why? Danny growled at the answer, scaring Tsunami. Tsunami. I am not going to lie to you. Today is about to become dangerous. I know that Inari doesn't want to be a coward anymore, and I am happy for that. But for once do as I say, take your son into town and find the most fortified area you and the villagers can get to. If you cannot find one, then take your son and get out of wave while there is still a chance. Konoha Nin. You're scaring me. What's going on? What about my father? Danny took a few breaths, knowing he had to word his answer carefully. I am going to do whatever I can to protect your father along with the rest of my team. I have just learned after overhearing Gato making a deal with Kiri that a squad of 50 Hunter Nin are heading here. This morning. If it was possible, Tsunami's face became white as chalk. She knew how bloody the Nin of the Hidden Mist were. If that many were coming to wave just to find one ninja, it would turn into a bloodbath, quite possibly a warzone. There's more, the Mizukage will be joining them. He continued, looking down. If it was even possible, Tsunami was about to have a heart attack. Inari. Pack a change of clothes. We are heading into town. Please do not argue. Minutes later Inari was ready with a bag. Thank you, Konoha Nin. He nodded as they made off for the town. Danny sighed as he ran towards the bridge, his instincts blaring aloud that something was bound to happen at this early hour. Backup hadn't arrived yet either, which meant that either something held them up, they were killed, or the group coming to help them hated Naruto. He sincerely hoped it wasn't the last one. He continued on, until his instincts screamed for him to duck. His instincts paid off as he was rewarded in seeing huge sword that belonged to none other than Zabuza sweep over his head, barely missing him. True that killing him fully involved damaging his core, but if Danny got killed in his human form he risked becoming a full ghost, and he was focused on keeping what humanity he had. The Alpha placed his hand on the handle of his sword as he noticed the Kiri swordsman and the fake Hunter Nin coming out of the trees on either side of him. While the assassin smirked, the other had a mask on, meaning he had no clue what the second person was thinking. Well, what do we have here? One of Kakashi's little students out for a little morning stroll, and without any backup as well. The assassin easily got his sword out of the tree it was in as he stared at the 12-year-old while Danny gave Zabuza a bored look in return. Zabuza, you do realize that Gato is just going to turn on you in the end, right? He has already informed the 4th Mizukage where you are. The Hunter Nin was about to move forward and attack him, but Zabuza stopped them with a look before speaking. Now that you mention it, kid, you're probably right, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to let you get away. That shadow traveling jutsu is more than enough to put a bounty on your head. If I can learn it, then there is no doubt that the village I came from would accept me back without any complaints, and the best thing is, I don't need you alive to learn it. Danny groaned, shaking his head as he drew his sword and Zabuza readied his own. With that, the enemy ninja swung his sword, which Danny easily used his own, reinforced with ectoplasm and ghostly ice, to block it while the light caught the jade-colored hilt caught the Hunter Nin's eye. As a result of the swords clashing, the two were instantly blown back from each other and Zabuza created a water clone. Haku, go with the water clone and distract those other Konoha shinobi. Thanks to those chakra pills and practice, the range is better than what the old one was. Without a word the hunter now known as Haku nodded before proceeding to disappear into the mist that was gathering around them. Danny though did nothing as he got into stance, his sword ready to attack, before using his hand to taunt the enemy. With that Zabuza quickly acted out in hopes of landing a strike on the skunk-haired boy who simply redirected said attack with his sword. The two kept trading blows with none of them getting the upper hand until finally the Halfa's sword was sent flying out of his hand and into a tree as the ninja spoke. For a kid who probably hasn't been holding a sword for that long, your skills aren't half bad, too bad I have to kill you now. Quickly striking the enemy ninja tried to cut Danny in half only to have his blade blocked yet again by an ice blade with green shine as the Halfa spoke. You should know something about me Zabuza, my abilities go beyond that of any mere genin. But due to this there are rules from where I come from outside of the elemental nations meaning I can't kill you. This is the only thing saving you right now, but there is nothing preventing me from beating you to mere inches of your death. The enemy ninja could only gulp as he started to feel the strange effect of Danny's haunting aura before bracing himself for anything. He was surprised that the kid had an ice affinity too as he thought that Haku was the last of his own clan. Scene shift. Kakashi was helpless as Zabuza held him back and Naruto alongside Sasuke was trapped in a cage of ice mirrors that prevented all escape while being attacked by Haku. You know Kakashi, your students are better than I gave them credit for, especially that skunk-haired kid. The silver-haired jonin tilted his head in confusion while wondering where Danny was at the moment, which was soon answered. That kid has earned my respect. You didn't even realize this, but the real me is in a sword match against him and I am actually having fun against him. I can't wait till we move on to using taijutsu. He could give even a B or A rank nin a run for their money. Oh, and pray tell, what exactly do you mean that my student in the middle of a sword fight with you, though I don't doubt the kid's ability, he still shouldn't be able to hold his own against you? Kakashi asked as the water clone smirked and continued to watch the fight until stopping and speaking. I accidentally stumbled upon him in the middle of the woods, and the kid was right, that blasted Gato went to the 4th Mizukage and told him I was working with you to get this bridge built, and Yagura himself has come with the hunter nin. The silver-haired jonin became shocked upon hearing this answer as the water clone was instantly dispelled by a surprise attack. Scene shift. Danny was still fighting with Zabuza when the enemy ninja suddenly stopped fighting and spoke. That man truly is a bstrd. You're a dead man Gato when I get your hands on you for revealing my location to Yagura. The skunk-haired boy stopped for a second as these words set in before quickly dashing and picking up his own sword while speaking. Looks like we need to finish this fight again another time Zabuza, but if my friends are under attack by your former village then I need to help them before Yagura arrives. Without waiting for an answer the skunk-haired boy quickly started to run, needing to work some of the ecto energy out of his system before being able to use chakra. As for the enemy ninja he was quiet for a moment before taking a few steps trying to run, but soon stopped as he thought about Haku. Without a word he went after the genin, intent on rescuing the kid that was like a son to him before anything bad happened to him. The two could only hope to arrive in time before any one of those they cared about ended up dying on them. Scene shift. Kakashi was dealing with group after group of hunter nin alongside Haku, Naruto, and Sasuke while they all tried to protect Tazuna. The blonde started to use his shadow clones in an attempt to confuse the enemy and the silver-haired ninja had copied him. The black-haired boy was using his recently acquired Sharingan to keep up with the attacks while the fake hunter nin was using his needles to knock opponents out. All in all, things were not looking as wonderful as they hoped. They were easily surrounded, until suddenly a few water clones of Zabuza appeared along with a clone of Danny, which spoke. Sorry about coming in late to the party, but when you're fighting an opponent with skills such as good as his Kakashi you sort of lose track of time. Zabuza will be going after Gato once this is over. The real me is going to see if he can intercept Yagura. He is on his way here right now if my chakra sense is anything to go by. Oh, and Naruto, keep your emotions in check. The Danny suddenly faced forward as the others readied their weapons while Naruto took a deep breath to calm himself down. Kakashi could only tilt his head, confused as to why the skunk-haired boy had said that to the blonde before shaking it off and focusing in on the fight. Kakashi, I am not going to lie to you, I could only spare 20% of my power in this clone. So I might give out at any time. I don't know how long I can last till then. Kakashi nodded, knowing he would take what he can get. Then protect the bridge builder. Don't let him get killed. The clone nodded and back flipped over to Tazuna, attempting to defend him however long he could. Scene shift. While everyone was fighting, the real Danny scanned the area trying to find Yugura. Noticing a group of shinobi in the distance, he headed towards them and noticed one who looked to be about 20 or so and devoid of any ANBU garb. The man had brown hair, wore green and black clothing and carried a staff that had a flower and a hook on the end. A rather odd combination for a weapon, but he was going out on a limb and take a guess that this would be the Mizukage himself. Racing to get in front of the group of mist shinobi, Danny emerged from the forest cover several yards in front of the ninja. Quickly counting, he noticed that there were a total of 4 hunter nin and the Mizukage himself. The man with staff held out his arm. Stop. The hunter nin obeyed his command. This confirmed Danny's suspicions on who he was. Stand down, Konoha shinobi. We will not be deterred from accomplishing our mission for Kiri. I take it that you are the Mizukage. Yugura, correct? The one identified himself as Yugura. You are way out of the boundaries of water country, you know. Yugura narrowed his eyes at the kid in front of him. We are merely here to apprehend a missing nin of ours who has been evading capture for some time. Does that include going to lengths such as killing a whole village to find and apprehend one person? If it means that what belongs to Mist will be returned, then so be it. We will also be doing away with his bloodline accomplice as well as any witnesses. Tell me something, Yugura-san. Danny looked to the Mizukage in the eyes. Where does one such as yourself find the right to kill somebody based on something that they cannot control in the first place? I am a little confused as to why you despise bloodline wielders. Bloodline wielders are responsible for all of the wars the shinobi have started. We will eradicate all the bloodline wielders in water country to prevent another war from possibly occurring. Yugura looked to the battlefield. Hunter nin, take down Zabuza and his accomplice. Eradicate any witnesses, I will be joining shortly. Sorry, but I'm afraid I cannot let you kill my team, Mizukage-san. He responded as he drew his sword. The hunter nin did the same. Yugura merely chuckled as he weaved through some hand signs creating a water clone. Head to the bridge. I'll handle this one. He responded as he drew his staff. The hunter nin leapt out of the area with the clone, frustrating Danny as he knew from experience against Zabuza that even a single water clone could be dangerous. Danny stared down the third Jinchuriki, who looked at him with a raised eyebrow. A genin from the village hidden in the leaves, and one that has a peculiar hair and eye coloration at that. You're brave to even face a Kage in a battle. That or foolish? Yugura tilted his head to the side as the skunk-haired teen said nothing for a moment before starting to speak in a low voice with a slight echo in it. Yugura. Fourth Mizukage of the village of the Bloody Mist, Kirigakure. One of the youngest to achieve the rank of Kage. If anything, Danny's voice showed he didn't care if he fought someone of higher caliber. A slightly green glow surrounded the boy at this point as his chakra level continued to rise till he was equal with that of the Yugura's resting state in terms of chakra. Right now he only released 2 chakra caps. He didn't dare waste what power he had, as Danny had no idea just how strong the Mizukage truly was. Upon sensing the increase though, Yugura raised his own power and got into a combat stance. You got both things correct there, child. However, there is one more thing you are not aware of. Yugura held a single hand out in a hand sign. Danny raised an eyebrow. I am not just the fourth Mizukage. I am also the Jinchuriki of the three-tailed beast. Though for someone like you I won't need to use its power. Yagura responded as his power rose. Danny's temper flared. We will see who the strongest person is here, Yagura. Whether you are a Jinchuriki or not. I will win this. For the sake of my team. With one last look at each other, the two charged, ready to see which one was more powerful, as it were. Upon colliding, though, both of them created a shockwave that pushed the other back and made the fog blow away. Sword clashed against hook staff as both of them traded blows with one another. Yagura had the height advantage, but Danny was able to maneuver around some of Yagura's strikes. Danny may have been doing something similar to this for 2 or so years, but Yagura had at least a decade underneath his belt. The Mizukage managed to trip Danny off his feet and kick him towards a tree, causing the Halfa to slide down the trunk. Opening his eyes, Danny gasped, seeing Yagura in front of him about to deliver a killing blow, or that would have happened if Danny hadn't brought his legs up charged with a moderate amount of ecto energy. Letting loose that energy from his legs, he caught Yagura by surprise as it launched the Mizukage into a tree as well. Of course it wasn't as strong as Yagura's kick, but still. A wielder of a Kekii Genkai? He questioned himself. Danny heard, though. Whether I am a BLD line wielder or not, does it matter? It only means that I now have more incentive to kill you. Yagura replied as he dashed forward. Danny leapt over the charging Mizukage. Geez, is this guy a Nazi? Yagura-san, do you know how many times people have tried to kill me due to what I am? I am used to that kind of feeling. The two traded strike, staff versus sword. Yagura swung his staff with the large hook end to sweep his feet off the ground. Leaping back, Danny kept up his guard as his opponent spun the hook-ended staff at him, this time aiming for his face. Danny evaded the staff hooks by punching the hook away with an ectoplasmic charged punch, then followed it up with an ectoplasmic ray to the Mizukage's head, causing the Mizukage to be launched into the trees before falling himself. But this didn't have the reaction Danny was expecting. Instead, Yagura was chuckling. Not too bad. Yagura taunted as he charged chakra into his legs and arms, launching himself forward, catching Danny by surprise. But not good enough. He finished as he slammed a fist into the Halfa's rib cage, knocking the wind out of him. Catching a few quick breaths, Danny rolled out of the way to avoid a leg stomp to his head. Yagura turned to leave for the bridge, but before he leapt out of the area, Danny shot some ectoplasm out towards him, catching his leg on ground, causing him to fall face first into the ground. Looking down, Yagura noticed the binds and the determination coming from the kid. So, you're that anxious to get killed, are you? A smile appeared on his face. If so, I'll be happy to oblige. Forming a hand seal, ninja art, hidden mist jutsu. Yagura announced as mist started to roll in, obscuring the Mizukage from Danny's view. Danny growled as if the Mizukage was thinking that he now had the upper hand. You can't go into a battle believing you may be the only water ninja with the ability to hide themselves in the mist, Yagura. He spoke as he disappeared himself, causing the Mizukage to become surprised in return. His clone relayed a message to him regarding the situation. Danny nodded, understanding their current standing and what he needed to do. Gathering a little bit of his ecto energy, he located his opponent in the mist, which, alarming him, was actually behind him. Yagura swung downward just as he had maneuvered himself behind the Mizukage. Danny was starting to believe if he wanted to give his team and new allies a fighting chance, he would need to enter the lion's den himself. Taking a hold of Yagura's clothing, he launched himself and the Mizukage a great distance onto the water away from land. He had originally thought about this during Kakashi's exercise but never got around to try it. If it didn't work, he would need to resort to his ghost powers earlier than needed. Focusing his chakra into his feet, Danny landed himself on the water feet first and using the momentum to throw his opponent from him. Now comes the tricky part. Fighting him on his home turf. Water. At the same time, Danny's clone and the rest of the squad were losing ground and fast. Yagura sent one water clone after them, and even though they were still fighting, Yagura looked ready to end it in one blow, considering the amount of hand seals that he was using. Half of Zabuza's clones were already destroyed. Zabuza-san, I need to know something about one of your just to please. The missing nin grumbled at the sudden request. Kid, I am a little busy at the moment. Some other time maybe. Danny screamed, "No Zabuza, now." Zabuza gritted his teeth, "Grrr. What?" Taking a deep breath he asked, "On average how far can a water clone travel from the user before dispelling?" Grr. I don't know kid, maybe 100 to 200 so yards give or take. He responded as he batted away another hunter nin. These guys just keep on coming. Thanks. Danny's clone focused on the original sending him the message. Zabuza took note of something. He noticed that Yagura was here and that if the clone of Kakashi's student was here, then why isn't the real one here with Yagura? Even if he had been beaten, wouldn't the clone have disappeared? Yagura sent a clone of his own to join the fray. The originals are still in combat with one another. Yagura's clone finished his hand seals. The water jutsu created 3 water spouts that were rising higher and higher into the air. What surprised everyone was that Yagura's clone was at one moment holding a smile of victory, then the next he showed shock as he dissolved into water himself, not only ending the jutsu but causing all the gathered water to fall back into the bank. What? What just happened? Was Mizukage-sama beaten? A hunter nin asked the party. Don't be absurd, as if Mizukage-sama could lose to a child. Press on. Looks like it worked. Danny answered as he walked closer to his teacher. This got everyone's attention. Kakashi pressed his student for answers. What worked? Mind filling us in, Danielle, on what just happened? Danny's duplicate nodded. There are 3 ways to dispel a water clone from my information. The first is the easiest, to defeat the water clone itself. The second, which is harder, is to defeat the original user. The third, which is not the most though of, is for one person to increase the distance between the user and the water clone itself. Zabuza looked like he had been slapped in the head with several fish. And if the clone goes too far, then they cannot hold themselves together. Kakashi, are you certain that student of yours really is a genin? I am starting to have trouble believing that. Kakashi glanced at the swordsman. You'd be surprised how often this team surprises me, and yes, they are all genin, even him. Zabuza chuckled at the leaf ninja. Kakashi, you'd better hope that student of yours can handle Yagura, otherwise we are all in trouble. He responded as he countered a group of hunter nins collaborated water jutsu with his own. I am not sure how long we can handle this. The Cyclops replied, saying the way this is going, it would come out with the winner of this battle being the group or person that finished their fight first. Whether it be Team 7, Zabuza and Haku against the hunter nin, or Danny against Yagura. Naruto had his attention split between helping Sasuke and assisting Haku. Due to the two having limited jutsu, they needed to work with the Hayaton user simultaneously. In one point Sasuke ordered Haku to make a dome with only one way out. Sasuke and Naruto's clones stood at the entrance. Soon as they gathered around a group of 6 hunter nin, Sasuke sent Naruto's clones in to keep the hunters occupied. In combination with it, he put a lot of chakra into his jutsu to set the hunter nin on fire and not give them a chance to escape. The plan worked, but not long after they were set alight, another group of 6 came out. Haku, Sasuke, let me handle this. The squad of Naruto clones asked them. The clones clashed with the hunter nin, who started dispelling the clones left and right. Sasuke noticed a Naruto bleed, signaling him as the real one. The hunter nin smirked beneath his mask and would have killed Naruto right then and there if Sasuke didn't stay put and start lashing out with the Uchiha Interceptor Taijutsu. Taking one hunter nin down, he saw that Naruto, whose taijutsu somewhat improved since meeting his brother, was having a bit of a strong time. Sasuke checked his pouch and noticed he was running low on kunai and had 3 shuriken left. Noticing a hunter nin heading his way, Sasuke took a kunai, parrying his opponent's tanto. Naruto, I need a hand here. Kind of busy, Tiami. Naruto leapt out of the fray, creating more shadow clones to cover both Haku and Sasuke. Sasuke felt a pain in his side and legs as he noticed a kunai in one while a hunter kicked him off his feet. Next thing he knew, he saw the hunter nin's tanto perched point down towards his face. Sasuke felt like his life was about to flash before his eyes as the tanto lowered itself in slow motion. A slab of ice appeared between him and the blade, catching both by surprise. Sasuke, not wanting to waste this chance, grabbed the blade and pulled it away. Taking his opponent's head in his legs, Sasuke threw him off while he took the blade and impaled the hunter nin with his own sword. "Thanks for that. Thank me later, Uchiha-san, or not at all. Right now we need to survive this." The Hayaton wielder responded. Naruto was getting frustrated with these people. First he was in the middle of a fight with the ice wielder who turned out to be Haku. Then he and Sasuke had to end their fight prematurely, and now these hunter nin just wouldn't let up. The ones from Leaf Village almost couldn't compare to them, and he outran them after pranks for crying out loud. Forming shadow clone after shadow clone, he sent them in after the mist shinobi, trying to either trip them up or render them unable to fight. So far a group of clones knocked 5 of them senseless, and another 4 were either sprouting bruises or a fractured bone. But because of the large number of nin, in order to prevent anyone from dying, he needed to send the clones to each person fairly, whether they be Sasuke, Haku, or Danny. His clone might be strong, but he didn't want to lose whatever support they had. Especially the abilities his brother had. More than once Danny saw a barrage of kunai and shuriken heading towards their client and did something to Tazuna and himself that made them all pass right through them like they weren't even there. With Danny and Yagura. Danny and Yagura traded blows one after another. Frustrated at his opponent for one-upping him and taking him away from the battle, Yagura disarmed Danny of his sword and sent it into the water, where it sank to the bottom and he couldn't even see it. "Not with all the mist there anyway. You're unarmed, and have lost," Yagura smugly replied. Danny simply smiled. "Might want to double-check that," he answered as he formed a staff of his own. Only different thing regarding this spear was it had 3 points at the end. Anyone can guess this iconic weapon? I may not mind a staff every now and then, but I believe that this situation may call for something like this, he answered, twirling the spear. The 4th Mizukage attempted to end this charade by breaking his opponent's weapon. Channeling a small amount of the Sanbai's chakra into the staff, Yagura brought his staff down and broke one of the spear points off. This left Danny's weapon looking like an oddly shaped pitchfork. He almost slipped into the water, and so he decided to form an ice platform and cut back on the risk. His opponent laughed at him. "Never really practiced water walking, have you, boy? Luck can only get you so far." Yagura charged at him on the ice platform with 2 water clones. Danny narrowed his eyes. "While that may be true to some point, I also can use something else for survival. Knowledge. But even more so, my longing to live and protect." Yagura began his assault by having his clones attack Danny's body one section at a time, whether they would be the legs midsection or the head. Noticing how a simple scratch from his broken spear drew blood, Danny took note of the real Yagura's location. The 2 water clones landed another blow on opposite ends of his upper body, in the front and behind in the legs. This action landed him on his back. Both clones took their hook staffs and brought them down, intending to end his human life. Danny made a split-second decision: if he lost, that was it. Focusing on the spear with his mind, Danny spun it around, cutting both clones in the thighs. This caused the clones to dispel into water. Standing up drenched in cold water, he saw the Mizukage was giving him a blank look, before charging him. Yagura gave a pretty heavy assault to the teen who had defied him too many times. Danny caught the staff in his pitchfork and kicked it out of his opponent's hand and into the water, where it too sank to the bottom. "Well, look here, now we both don't have a main weapon. So, guess that puts us on equal ground." He gestured to the Mizukage, as he held up a pitchfork that now sported broken head. The handle only reached 2 feet now, so it was pretty useless. He threw that into the water where it began to break apart. Equal footing, don't make me laugh, you haven't even begun to see what a Kage is truly capable of. Yagura made some hand seals which channeled chakra to his hands. Danny couldn't figure out what this jutsu did, but he felt that it didn't bode well for him. The Mizukage charged forward with his palm firmly pressed against Danny's shoulder. Danny thought to himself, why a palm strike when he could have used his own fists? It was then he noticed a wad of coral growing from his shoulder quickly consuming him. He tried to pull it off, but he noticed that it would come off. Water style, coral palm. Yagura simply answered. That jutsu leaves a mark of coral to grow over the area struck until it covers them completely. Even with the ice you have, it will just absorb the moisture and grow even faster. Danny gave a bored look at him. You really need to read more. It's true that coral is an aquatic plant and this jutsu can use external moisture above water to grow. But here is something else. Ice has many temperatures and like all plants even coral can't stand to grow in certain temperatures. Have you even determined the temperature I can make the ice, Yagura? Danny questioned him as he froze the coral completely, making it fall off. Sometimes the deeper you go, the colder the water temperature becomes. Therefore your coral cannot grow. So one of his specialty around jutsu involves the sea. My knowledge on oceanic life is very limited. That last bout left me a little drained though. Guess I don't have much choice. Danny thought as he uncapped 3 more of his chakra caps, bringing him stronger than Yagura currently is. Causing Yagura to notice and becoming upset. Eat this. Yagura shouted as he went through some hand signs. I made up this jutsu as it kind of matches what I know regarding his techniques. Water style, jellyfish tentacles. Danny saw water connect to Yagura's arms and electricity began to be conducted through them. Jellyfish, what were those again? He got his answer when he leapt back to avoid them, that one of the 2 tentacles gave him quite an electrocution. Danny screamed in pain as the electricity coursed through his body. Yagura took advantage of his predicament and spun around using the other tentacle to capture him in a hold, sending more electricity through his body as well as slamming him into the ice platform, shattering it. When Yagura finished his work he looked back, seeing the body of the kid floating in the water, thinking he couldn't get up after that. But he was proven wrong when his opponent started to stand using the broken ice as support. Albeit rather shakily. You really think that something with that much electricity will keep me down? I have experienced worse. Your lighting was nothing compared to that. This started to piss off Yagura, as not only had the kid shrugged off his technique but he was also able to hold his own. He couldn't believe he was going to have to use this, just to end it. Going through many hand signs, a large sphere of water began to form around Yagura. With Team 7 and Zabuza. Danny's clone started to convulse as he could feel the electricity flowing through the original. A hunter Nin got a lucky shot and the clone dispelled, leaving Tazuna right open. Kakashi's eye widened as he saw the predicament. But Tazuna needed some help. Naruto, go help Tazuna. The blonde shinobi raced to the bridge builder, trying to provide clones for everyone, but was finding it difficult to do so now. He hoped that his brother was alright. Everyone heard a roar in the distance, causing the hunter Nin to pause in what they were doing. Zabuza himself was panicking. I can't believe Mizukage-sama was forced to do that. That kid is finished and now so are you. Naruto, ever the stubborn, ever proclaimed that it's not over. That they are a team and he knows that his brother can win. The shinobi fighting them laughs. Pity, guess we'll just have to spare you the pain and disappointment. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Cray22 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.